Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today.
Ron, you should run that Avenue of the Giants. It's beautiful.
I'm not running them. My last marathon was in '96. That's going to be my last one. It's going to stay as my last marathon.
I had said that too, and then I got talked. I got talked into another marathon. So
well, I got talked into '96. I thought I was done before then. So we were just talking about that before you came on.
I've run one.
Amy and Benji are impressive.
Yeah.
With the number of marathons that they've run.
Oh, I know.
Something to do.
There's much more fun things to do than running marathons.
Well, it depends. I mean, I've been doing this for so many years. I don't know what else I would do. I know Nancy's golfing now. I have no interest in golf. One of my running buddies is retired from running. He's a pickleball, and I'm not.
Pickleball. Oh, how many people do you know who've gotten injured? Like major injuries playing pickleball.
Yeah, we've got a good friend who she got a pickleball gift card. She went and played pickleball and ended up having surgery to repair her ankle.
ACL, Achilles.
Yeah.
I know more people who've gotten injured. And so I did something fun when I came back to running. So I took 20 years off of running. I didn't run at all. I was pregnant with our second child and was on bed rest, and I just never got out of bed. No, I never started running again. I was just busy with my life. My life was great and busy. But then same child, her freshman year, school in Boston, and her freshman year was the marathon bombing year. And she was at Harvard, and she calls me. And remember how crazy that all was, because those guys escaped and they were chasing them, and they were locked down at Harvard for days. And literally couldn't leave their dorm.
Yeah.
She calls me and she said, "Mom, my senior year, I want to run the Boston Marathon." And I thought she was just kind of going a little stir crazy from being stuck in the dorm room. So I said, "Oh, sure, honey, we can do that." And then sophomore year comes around. She goes, "Mom, you're going to have to start running if we're going to run the Boston Marathon in 2 years." And she was playing soccer at the time. And I said, "Okay, as long as you don't start running, because you don't need to be any more fit than you are right now if we're going to run this together." And she said, "Okay." So we ran her Boston 2016. And I'm so grateful to her because she got me back running again. And now I've done with her and other friends some really, really, really fun things to do later in your life. We finished Boston. We ran like 4:25-ish. There was a lot of walking involved by me. I got injured. I was never injured in my first career. I was nothing but injured. When I came back, I tore one meniscus, and I got back from that, and then I tore the other meniscus and didn't have surgery on either one. I ran like 6 months out of the 12 leading up to the marathon. So you can imagine how much fun it was for me. And for Em, it was just a really great bonding thing, mother-daughter bonding. She hit the 13-mile mark. Her brother came up from New York, and she had a couple friends there, when you go through Wellesley, and she burst into tears. She just was sobbing. "I don't think I can make it." And I said, "Oh my God, yes, you can. You're fine. You're fine. Trust me, you're fine." But if she hadn't done any, and I said, you're fine. We'll just walk as much as we need to walk. Well, she didn't need to walk at all. Anyway, after that, we ran. I saw something online about these vacation races where they do them near national park. So we ran the North Rim of the Grand Canyon half marathon trail. All trail. She said to me, "Have you looked at the course?" I said, "No." She goes, "It starts at 6,000 feet and climbs 1,000 feet in the first 2 miles." It was like, well, that'll be fun. And anyway, we did that, and she loved it. And I loved it. She loved the fact that you can stop and eat. I loved it that it didn't matter. Time doesn't matter. Time is completely irrelevant when you're running on the trail. And all I wanted to do was win my age group. That's all I cared about. Maybe beat the men group, but I just wanted to win. And we had so much. So we did.
Did you beat the men in your age division?
I don't remember. I ran some other ones where I know I did. I ran a bunch of trail races around here where I did.
You ever run Dipsy?
I have never run the Dipsy because I don't see well. I've run the course. I took one look at the course and I said I'll have a broken because if you run the Dipsy.
No, that's one I kind of wanted to, but I never got around to it. There's no money in it, and I was, that would have been.
Well, I'm actually toying with actually running it at some point now that I'm slow. And I won't feel like I have to run fast through because it's all sorts of dappled lights and really uneven footing. Yeah. And my Achilles heel is falling when I'm trail running, which I think
that's one reason I don't do trail races anymore.
Yeah. So
I've broken enough ribs.
Yeah, I thought about and mine. I ran the Alps. I ran half the Tour de Mont Blanc in 2022, not in one day, like 4 days. I did a tour where you start and go to they move your luggage for you and everything. That was spectacular. That was so much fun.
I've seen that.
Sorry?
I've seen that. It was on a Travel Channel program I watched.
Yeah.
It looks like it'd be a blast.
Oh, it's so much fun. So much fun. I had that year I went with a girlfriend. We actually planned to do it in 2020. We called it the epic year of Bets and Nance. She's 10 years younger than I am, but qualified for the trials in 2000. And she's like my running BFF. And but then COVID hit. Yeah, we were going to do that and the World Championship, World Veterans, whatever World Masters Champ, whatever it's called. But obviously both got canceled. Then we didn't go in 21 because we still thought it was a little iffy. So we went in 2022 and we had this great group, fabulous guides. The food is delicious. You stop, you run, you stop and eat. You run, you stop. Our longest day was 20 miles. And, that was a long day. But it was really, really fun. And then I went with another running BFF summer before last. We went to the near the Eiger and ran there, but I'd had really bad sciatica and kind of got myself pulled together well enough to go, and then I tripped the first day, and so I couldn't run the rest of the time because my back hurt. So but I was able to hike, so it was fine. It's fine.
You sound like all the reasons why I stopped running. Sciatica, Achilles, knee, meniscus, all those reasons. That's why I've given up running, because if it's not one thing, it's something else that breaks down.
Well, in my case, I'm doing fine.
Yeah, my biomechanics are good. It's just the rest of me that's not so good.
Yeah, there you go, Ben. Now I'm doing fine. I've sort of figured out the sweet spot of how to do it. And the reason I had a lot of these problems is I think it was 20 years of not running. And,
trying to come back a little faster than maybe you
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So, Nancy, were you training a lot on the hills in San Francisco, in the Bay Area there, when you were in your prime? You were?
Always. I did probably 80% of my running on trails in the hills. Yeah. And I think that's why I wasn't injured back then, because I was talking to Benji about, I ran 100 miles a week, 90 to 100 a week, which at that time in the mid 80s, nobody was really running huge mileage except for Benji.
No, I wasn't. I never was a huge mileage. 85, 95, that was my sweet spot.
Yeah. And but at that time, everybody was worried about running that kind of mileage. I just got stronger and faster. But I think a lot of it was all that mileage was on dirt.
Yeah.
And,
I would say.
Yeah, a lot of mine was on, I had this loop near about 3 minutes from where I lived, and it was roughly a three-minute loop, and it was up and down. Had two little hills in it and two little downhills. I had a little stream I went across. I'd do as much as 3 hours in the woods on that 3-minute loop.
Yeah.
And nobody could see me. Nobody would ever go in there on my trail, and I just go in there. And it was under the trees, and you couldn't see much more than 50 meters in front of you. If that was the longest, if you could see that far. Usually it's 25 meters. Just go in there and veg out and run forever.
Yeah. And it's so mentally restorative to be out in nature. How about you, Ron? Did you run on trails?
I was a No, I lived in Houston for 3 years after college, and Houston's flat as a pancake. So why I became such a good hill runner is beyond me because I never trained on the hills, but I was I was strong on the hills. And then
Yeah.
when I moved to Eugene, I trained on the flats up there. Very rarely did I ever do hill session.
Yeah.
So
Well, early on when I was with Gary Gettleman, we did a lot of hill repeats, and now were I to do what my running group team does, we do a fair amount of hill repeats. My coach gives us hill repeats, and when I was going to the Alps, the workouts.
Did you ever run the Presidio 10-miler across the Golden Gate?
No, I've run since that time. I didn't run the Presidio 10-miler back in the day, but since that time I've run across the Golden Gate back. It was funny. I was so now my coach is Bill Clark, who was second at Boston behind in 68.
Was it Amby?
Amby. Yeah, he was second behind Amby. And thank you. In your moment there. And I think I was getting ready to go to the Alps, and he coaches. We have a big group at West Valley. Anyway, so I said, I think I'm going to run this. There's a group of women's races, mainly here, I think, the Mermaid Run. They're really fun, really, really fun, well-organized races. And so I said, I'm going to run the Mermaid 10K. And he goes, yeah, the 10-mile sounds good. And I said, no. I'm going to run the Mermaid 10K. And he goes, yeah, the 10-mile will be perfect for you. And I go, okay, I guess I have to run the 10-mile. And it went across the bridge and back, and it's kind of fun because you go over one side, then you climb down the stairs, go underneath, and come back the other way, and then you finish up going through. So you run part of it video, but you start and end it down at the Marina Green.
Yeah, I've run that race before. Actually, I held the course record there at one time.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Yeah, it's fun,
Did you know Mike Finelli?
Really well. Really well.
That was so
that
sad.
was so sad. His memorial service was spectacular. I mean, it was a packed house, and his brother was great, and Mike was a fixture because he coached the Impala women's group for a long time, and he was the voice of Beta Breakers, and I ran Beta Breakers all those years, so we would do all the press conferences and that sort of thing together. So
how about Mike Pinocchi? Did you know Mike at all?
Yes, I did. I think we were on the World Cup marathon team in Hiroshima in '85. I think he was on that team, maybe, but I knew him.
Yeah, when you said West Valley Track Club, so I was really good. I was really good friends with Mike, both Mikes, and then Duncan. Did you?
Oh yeah, I lived on the same street as Duncan in Menlo Park when I started running. I
can't believe it. We don't know each other better than
I know.
We do with all the common friends that we have. Yeah,
exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Well, living in different parts of the country, I think that makes a difference.
Did you run for Nike during your career?
Never. I started off with Adidas because Adidas was based here. And I think Gary had a relationship with Adidas.
Yeah, I was with Adidas all my career. I went down actually San Jose to their headquarters there.
Yeah.
You were with Nike a little bit there briefly.
Clausen, wasn't that his name? Yeah. Those were I remember those marathon trainers, those blue with the black sole with the trefoil on the bottom. Those shoes lasted forever.
The marathon 80s were terrible.
Yeah.
Did you meet Pete Squires? Did you know Pete?
Yes, I did.
I talked to Pete. We've been talking quite a bit lately regarding Coach Dillinger. Yeah. But the marathon 80s, I actually, because of those shoes, I ended up having to have surgery for plantar fasciitis, both feet.
Yeah, which one was that shoe? Is that the one I was describing? The blue ones?
I believe that's the one that you're describing.
Whatever it was. I loved that shoe.
Is
that the one that
just
had the
gave you no protection
that stuck out on the heel?
Yeah, maybe it's not the same shoe because this one had a lot of protection. It was a very
this one, so we're not talking about the same shoe. So in New York in '83, I wore. What did you wear there? I wore the Atlanta with the mesh.
I probably did too. I have no memory of it. what I wore. And then I went with Asics. Then I went with Puma.
You know Jan Lester?
Yes.
Jan,
yeah.
no, wonderful lady. We caught up 2 years ago at an event down in Los Angeles. Ralph Cerna has a big birthday party every year down there, and it's more a runner's reunion.
Nice.
And so
Runners
caught up with Jan. That's really good. Oh yeah. Oh, Benji was there too with us, so we had a nice little group there. Nice gathering.
And then
I'm surprised you haven't been down there for that.
Nobody invited me.
I have to talk to Ralph about that.
Then I went with, so let's see, I was with
12.
Puma and then Avia. And so I went with Avia in 88. Avia signed me in 88. And they did not have a racing flat. So I said, well, you're going to need to have a shoe for me to race in. I didn't really care what I trained in. I was pretty, it's funny. We've got a wonderful running store here, and I go in and I'll say, what do you think I should try? And as long as they, fit my feet okay. I wear just about anything. Anyway, so I raced the Olympic trials in, we had to pull the Puma stuff off the shoe because I couldn't run in a Puma shoe. And then Avia made me a shoe, but they were making the prototype for the shoe. I never saw the shoe. The shoe came off from the factory. It was like a run of one from the factory. They had it couriered, and it met me in Los Angeles as the plane was leaving to go to Japan before going to Korea. So I had a shoe that I had never put on my foot to run in the marathon in the Olympics. It worked out fine.
Yeah, but it's scary.
Scary proposition.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a shoe kind of like that from Brooks. They were trying to get me to wear Brooks, and I was in Puerto Rico, and they took me to the factory and asked me all kinds of questions about what I wanted and made a shoe while I was there. Flew back to the northern part of Puerto Rico and went out with Tom Fleming and Bill Rogers for a run, and a mile into the run, the shoe fell apart.
Oh dear. Well, mine was, I just said, here's this Puma shoe that I like. I'd like something like this. Just, it'll be fine. So it was great. And then, but they had no intention of putting it into production. And then they took out full page ads when I made the team, in Runner's World and the Runner. And then everybody said, we want the shoe. So they actually had to make shoes. Had to produce the racing shoe.
That's good. That's a great story.
What were they trying to do?
They were just they just wanted, they were really into aerobics and things like that. I mean, they were a lifestyle. They weren't a running shoe brand. And so they didn't need to be in the racing shoe business because that's a very small market, right? Yeah. So but then I think they had to put it into production. They were great to me. I loved being with Avia. They were fabulous to me, and it was fun. My husband and I, though, we still talk about Adidas because back in the day, well, Bruce is the lawyer, and I think every shoe deal I had, he would write in that he could get whatever he wanted in as long as part of the deal. As part of the deal. And he took full advantage of that with Adidas. He had shoes for sports he had never contemplated. And, bike shorts and, this, that, and the other thing. And every once in a while I'll go in the basement, I'll find some old, hiking shoe from Adidas.
Yeah, Adidas had a catalog out at one point.
Yeah.
When I was working for Fidipides and I got the catalog, there's like 150 different shoes.
Yeah, and Bruce got everything.
A parachute jumping shoe.
Yeah.
I mean, wrestling shoes and
Well, I got to go to the factory in Germany because they when I was having problems with my feet with the plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
So they were trying to come up with a shoe design that I could run in and train in. And so it was a disaster, but it was amazing to go into the factory and see the variety of shoes that they made.
Yeah.
Pretty unique experience.
At one point, really the only athletic shoes in the world were by the Dossler brothers.
Right.
Adidas and Puma. That was it. I mean, you could get shoes like from kids or whatever, but they weren't really truly athletic shoes. They were just shoes.
Yeah.
So, Nancy, what do you think about these times that the women are running these days? And I guess speaking of shoes, have you tried any of the new shoes that would have made you a 2:10 marathoner?
Yes. So I had dinner with Craig Masbach last. He was in town, and we were talking about the shoes. And I said, so what do you think? What do you think I would have run in the new shoes? And he said, oh, I think you would have been at 222, 223, something like that. So, because my best was 230. I didn't really care about time that much. So,
I mean, time wasn't that really important back when we were racing either.
I didn't care about the time. I was so close to 230. It would have been nice to have broken 230, but that was in the Olympic trials, and my hamstring had tightened up enough that I just thought, I'm just coasting here. I just want to make sure I've got my spot. But he thought I would have run 22, 223. I actually got a pair. I think Craig had them sent to me. I put them on and I said, this is ridiculous for somebody running as slowly as I run. They just didn't feel right. They're probably still in the closet.
I'm running pretty slow, and I'll wear them on my hard days. And it's not so much I'm looking for speed, is they're friendlier and pounding. And so my legs aren't as trashed.
That's what Craig was saying. He said you could have trained more miles, and because the energy it gives you back that's what they measure. It's the energy.
It helps you recover faster.
Yeah.
I mean, and I do think it makes you run faster if you have the right form.
Right.
It's not something you just can go out there and expect to have a PR in them, but if you have the right running form, you got a good stride, and you tend to, get air, then they're useful. I tried the Alpha Flies, and I didn't like them that much because my style of running it doesn't fit the Alpha Flies. But the 4% worked for me. But also I've got a pair of Saucony Endorphin Pros that work fine, and that's what I usually use for my training. But I don't know. I mean, Ron and I have had this discussion so many times. We don't know how fast. It's
and it doesn't really matter. And there's nothing more boring, I think, than the old folks saying, "Well, we could have done this." I'm happy for what they're doing now. It gives me no end of joy to see how fast the women are running now. When I saw that 209, I wondered how the heck did that happen? But I have knowledge, right? So I don't know. That one raised my eyebrows a bit. But I also
mushrooms. It's all about the mushrooms.
I also,
turtle blood,
having lived through the 80s and 90s and been involved in the, out of season testing and all of that, I think many, many people are way too quick to blame fast times on drugs instead of, that's my feeling. I think there's a lot of people who are, I just think there's a lot of talent and there's a lot more competition. And I think the training groups that we have now have elevated the ability of people to train together. I mean, when I was running, I did, when John was coaching me, I did every run by myself for the most part. My track work was done. I have a friend, Rod Christensen, who he would rest, and then he would do my speed work with me. When I got into speed work, he would do whatever I had to do. He was my speed training partner, and he just sacrificed himself for me. I have to say, I did sacrifice myself once for him. I paced him at Western States, so I gave back something. But he gave me.
How far did you run in Western States?
Well, I thought I was going to run 20 miles. So these are guys that I had run with Gary Gettleman. These are, and so there were two of us pacing Rod. And
don't tell us you ran 100 miles.
No, but I ran 40.
Oh, you didn't run 40 straight, did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How
old were you?
This was, I think this was the year, it was 82 or 83. And what happened was I was at that, have you been on the course ever? But remember, this was the year, it was televised, and, the helicopters are flying, but there's a flat something flat at the 60-mile mark. And Rod had hurt his back the day before. He tweaked his back a little bit, these things that happen. And I, so we were leapfrogging. Skip and his wife and I were leapfrogging, and Skip had taken him whatever his aid was somewhere. But Skip, we were at this flat where it's one of the few places everybody could drive. And I'm sitting there it's a warm day. I'm sitting in my shorts, relaxing in a chair, having a good old time. And we were just going to cheer him on at that point and send him on his way. And Skip comes running up, Devil something or other, comes running up and he says, "Get your shoes on. Rod needs you." And I'm my shoes on. I hadn't hydrated. I hadn't, fed myself. I hadn't done anything. So I get my shoes on, and I grab some water and I start drinking. And, the technology back then was so much worse for everything, right? We didn't have the hydration. We didn't have the fueling. Power bars was about it. Thank God I grabbed a flashlight. So it turns out Rod had, by the 20-mile mark, lost every single toenail.
Ooh.
And he comes up and, they you go through a medical check.
Mm-hmm.
And he passes his medical check and he looks at me and goes, "Let's go. Anybody can run this when they feel good. Let's show them how you do it when you feel bad." So I think I'm going to run for like 10 miles till the next whatever checkpoint, 10 or 15 miles. And it turns out he needed. So I ran all the way to the finish with him. When we crossed the it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever done in my life. It was a glorious day. It was hard, it was hard for him. It was hard for me. It was the essence of, being a good teammate. And we had some really good laughs. So when we crossed the American River, you kind of wade and it was kind of up to our waist and you wade across and then you get to the other side and there's a medical checkpoint and they check Rod and then they want to check me. And the guy goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, I wasn't planning on running this far." And he goes, "Well, get some fluids." And so I ate and I drank and, about just before 90 miles is another big checkpoint. And we have a chance to break 24 hours. Yeah, there's somewhere along the way, about 80 miles, he has to stop and pee. And so, I give him some privacy. I move down the trail a bit. It's pitch black, and I hear a rattlesnake and I just zip back to him and I said, "I'm not looking, but I'm standing with you." Anyway, we get to the 90 and it's weird because you're also sleep deprived and you start coming up and you start seeing people beside the trail, but they're like statues because they're not making a lot of noise. And you think, am I hallucinating? Is that really a person there? Anyway, we have no fluids left. Our batteries are out on the flashlights. So Skip comes down from the 90-mile checkpoint. And I said, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get all of our stuff together. And I'll meet you up there. And I get up to the 90-mile and there's Rod's girlfriend who had a little trouble with me because we spent so much time together. Now I've been married at this point, like 10 or 12 years. But I guess she didn't like how much time Rod and I spent together. And I didn't really realize this. When he hurt his back, she had said, "You should pull out." Yeah. The day before she said, "You shouldn't start tomorrow." So that'll give you the flavor of what's going on. So I get up there and I see her and I said, where I need flashlights, food and drink. And she goes, "I heard Rod's not doing very well. He should drop out." This is at the 90-mile mark. And I looked at her and I said, "He's not dropping out. And if he does drop out, we're going to have to do this whole thing again next year. Where's our stuff?" She said, "Find it yourself." And and so I'm running around and it's the middle of the night, but there's all these lights and, I find the car and I get all of our stuff together. And I said, I just looked at her and I said, "Do not say a word to him about dropping out. We are going to finish this race and we are going to break 24 hours. And we did. And it was great, but I had not
intended. How much did you break 24 hours by?
Well, not a lot. It wasn't an hour. Let's put it that way. It was probably 10 or maybe.
Yeah, John Sinclair did it. And he got to the track and he saw that it was getting close. And he said he really started running hard. And you look at the videos and you can't tell he's running.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really great. But he finished and his feet looked like hamburger meat. I never could have done that. I was not that tough. In 1,000 years, I couldn't have done it. But he did. And by the way, he did break up with the girlfriend. So,
which was that was a sign.
Yeah.
I
never told him until years later what had happened because I just thought, yeah.
No need to.
Yeah.
So is that the craziest thing you've ever done in running?
Probably.